Yeah, William Henry Jacklin was actually the first black firefighter hired in the city of Hartford. This is going way back. And he was brought on as a volunteer. At that time, most of the fire department in Hartford was volunteer. When they went paid, he remained a volunteer because black men couldn't sleep in the same bunk room as white men. When they finally, you know, through his firefighting ability, they offered him a full-time paid position in the fire department. But the caveat was he could not sleep in the same bunk room with his white firefighter colleagues. Being the proud black man that William Henry Jacklin was, he declined the position. His thing was, if I can die in fires with white firefighters, then I should be able to sleep in the same bunk room with them. So he declined that position. And it wasn't until 1948, I believe, that other black men were hired on the Hartford Fire Department. What I'd like to show you is a portrait of William Henry Jacklin. It was right there. And again, a Hartford resident. Again, because of Brother Jacqueline, it wasn't until, I believe, 1948 that Hartford then actually hired 5 black firefighters were brought on. And in this picture that you see here, Sonny Lewis, Frank Davis, Ben Laurie, George Hayes, Harry Ash. The gentleman you see in the middle there, this is Chief John B. Stewart honoring these gentlemen with the 25th year on the Hartford Fire Department. But those are the first 5 gentlemen that were hired after William Henry Jacklin refused to be part of a segregated fire department. And I must say this, those 5 gentlemen, when I came into the Hartford Fire Department in 1970, I was assigned to Ladder 4 at 25 Blue Hills Avenue, pretty much at the corner of Albany Avenue and Blue Hills Avenue. And as a rookie, my bunk was like in a alcove with a window. And it wasn't until one of the brothers in my company said to me, he said, "You know why you over there, Proby?" And I said, "I figured because, you know, that's where they put me." He said, "Actually, that used to be the black bed. That's why you're in this little alcove away from everybody else over here. That used to be the black bed." These gentlemen could not be detailed. Detailed is if another firehouse needs a man and you've got an extra man, we call that a detail. We'll send that person over to that. These gentlemen, when they first came on, couldn't be detailed because they couldn't sleep. There weren't no other black beds anywhere. So even in 1948, there was still this kind of segregation. But I mean, they overcame, and I'm glad they did, because as a result of them, I was able to come onto the Hartford Fire Department. And you know, when we see things like this, these are historic, because you can't imagine what these guys went through when they first came on this job. You know, they took a lot of hits for guys like me. It was an old timer that saved my job in the Hartford Fire Department, because I had just come home from the war, from Vietnam, and I wasn't quite right, and I wasn't taking a whole lot of stuff. And I'm a civil rights baby, so you know, I wasn't taking all that craziness. And one day I was going to do some harm to somebody, another white firefighter, because I had just had it. And it was one of these old timers, man, that pulled me aside and said, "Think about your family. Don't let them get to you." And so I owe what I've been able to accomplish to these guys. And I just think it's important that we recognize that. And because of these guys, when you take a look up here, those black men became chiefs of this department. And we just had another chief confirmed, another black chief. He's the chief of the department, the #1 man. Was born, we were out of William Henry Jacklin. That's John B. Stewart down there, extreme left. Next to him is Nelson Carter. Next to Nelson is Robert Dobson. Next to Chief Dobson is Chief Charles Teal. And again, and Chief Frieden. And again, you know, we are products of William Henry Jacklin.
What made you want to join the fire department?
You know, that it's funny because I really, you know, I was young. I had just, like I said, I had just come home from the service. I had just come home from Vietnam. I had a family, a young family. I needed a job, and I remember this is, I was working at Pratt, and Pratt wasn't a good fit for me. I was getting set to re-enlist and go back in the service. And I was walking to a bus stop, and a friend of mine saw me, John Abrams, who happened to be a firefighter. And we got to talking. He said, "What are you doing, Steve?" I said, "I'm getting set to go back down and recruit. I'm going to re-enlist and go back in the service." And he said, "Why?" I said, "Because, you know, I don't really like working at Pratt." And he said, "Well, the fire department is hiring." And I said, "Man, I don't want to run into burning buildings, you know." And he said, "No, come with me." He took me into his house, sat me down for about an hour and talked to me. When I left out of his house, I got on the bus, went down City Hall, applied for the fire department, and about a month later, I'd taken a test. Next thing I knew, I had an interview with the chief of the department. He asked me some questions, and to this day, I still think the reason he hired me, one of the reasons he hired me, because he asked me, he said, "I see that you're a veteran." I said, "Yes." He asked me where I served. I said, "In Vietnam." And he asked me who I served with. And I said, "The 4th Infantry Division." He said, "You served with the Fighting 4th? And I said, "Yes." He said, "I was with the 4th Infantry Division in Europe during World War II. Go down to City Hall, tell them I'm making you a probationary firefighter." But let me tell you something, that little bit of luck landed me in a job that I loved. I absolutely loved. I had the opportunity to work in my neighborhood. You know, it was a job that every day that I left that job, I knew I had done something good. But I also met the most astonishing of the brothers who just took me under their wing. And again, it's a job that every day you're doing service. You're doing service to your citizens, and if you're fortunate enough to work in your neighborhood, you're doing service to your neighbors. And I just, you know, I encourage any young man or woman that are looking for a career that every day you go home, you know you've done something good. I encourage you to look at the Hartford Fire Department. Like me, you may say, "I don't want to run in a burning building." But again, trust me, you can do it.
All right, I'm gonna ask you 2 more questions, Mr. Harris. So with you having served in Vietnam,
Yes, sir.
and with you being a firefighter within your neighborhood and in your city, so I could almost assume that you took a lot of this to heart. Can you see the connection between post-traumatic stress disorder from what you've seen in Vietnam and what you see in inner city communities?
Absolutely. I suffer from PTSD. And again, I tell people, man, one of the hardest things for folks who don't live and don't look like us, don't understand that most black men walk around in self-defense mode every single day. That's a form of PTSD. That's one of the reasons why we have high rates of high blood pressure, diabetes, things like that. Yeah, it has to do with eating, but it also has to do with stress. It also has to do with stress. And again, you know, my service in Vietnam, I came home with mild PTSD, if you want to call it mild PTSD. With the things that you see, everybody can't do this job. I'll just be very honest with you. Everybody can't do this job. Because again, this is a job where, like I said, every day you go home, you know you've done something good. But some days you go home, you see some things, man, that you can never forget. And that stays with you. I, to this day, will get up in the middle of the night and just literally walk through my house looking for things, you know, before I lay back down. Again, yeah, no, this job is rewarding, but it also takes a toll. But you can manage it. We all manage it.
So for the future Steve Harris's and young William Jacklins coming up, especially in the city of Hartford, what is some elderly advice you could give them to stay focused and to not only stay focused on their job, but to appreciate the historical ladder that the ones like yourself and the ones that came before you established in this particular city?
Find out what your passion is. Pursue your passion. Prepare for your passion. And don't let anybody tell you you can't do it. Because if anybody had ever said to me in 1970 when I came into the fire service that I would be in the fire service for 27 years and retire as a fire captain, I didn't think that. I never thought about that. But again, once I got there and I had, you know, I was under the tutelage of these brothers that you're surrounded by, my legends, they imparted their knowledge, their encouragement. And I just think that most times that we give up too easy. We allow people to discourage us. Don't. Follow your passion. Somebody will see you. Somebody will recognize that passion. That somebody will take you into their, embrace you, help lead you, help guide you. But at the end of the day, you're the one that's got to get up every day, meet the day, get through the day. This is, it's funny, I was a young buck. Where the hell, right here. When this was our first kind of poster that we took of ourselves. And what's sad for me is a lot of those guys aren't here anymore. This picture was taken in the 70s. And a lot of these guys aren't here anymore. And, you know, I liken that to this picture here. Now, this was taken probably in the let me see, 97. This was taken probably in late 80s. And most of these guys are here. But obviously we're a lot older. We're senior citizens now in many respects. And lastly, out of the Phoenix Society, in 1970, we convened a convention here in the city of Hartford with other black firefighters from around the state. And we started what is now known as the International Association of Black Professional Firefighters. It is literally an international organization with chapters all over this country, in the Caribbean, in a chapter or two, I believe, in Europe. It was founded right here in Hartford, Connecticut in October of 1970. And the gentleman that you see here, Captain Floyd, was our first founding president. It was covered by the Hartford Star, which is now the Hartford Enquirer. And like I said, out of 5 organizations, 1 in Hartford, 1 in New York, 2 in Jersey, and 1 in Philadelphia, we birthed the International Association of Black Professional Firefighters, and we're proud of that. Mastermind that took my vision and my organization's vision and turned it into something that not just young children in this neighborhood, but adults in this neighborhood will say, what is that about? What is that about? Because one thing I've learned is sometimes it takes art to explain history. And one thing black folks have, particularly in cities like Hartford, is history. We helped build this city. But you'll never find, very rarely will you find our history told anywhere. And listen, I'm one of these brothers that, listen, I get Black History Month, but our history is every day. It should be told every day. So again, this mural that we're having done is going to talk about, through art, our history. And what I like to do is take you inside and show you some things that will help you understand what's taking place out here. All right. Shout out to Hartford. Hartford's my hometown. I tell people I'm a hood rat. I'm from North Hartford, 06120. Stay strong, 06120. Stay strong. Brother Champ, doing good work, man. Doing good work.